Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. In this podcast, I'm talking to Shiksha Sharma about microorganisms.
Hi, Siksha. Thank you for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you for inviting me for this podcast. I'm doing good.
Okay, great. So, could you go ahead and tell a bit about yourself, your background, etc.?
As you said earlier, I'm Shiksha Sharma, and currently I'm doing my PhD in microbiology from Indian Institute of Technology, that is IIT Bombay. And my work particularly focuses on understanding ways of antimicrobial resistance related to tuberculosis disease. So, yeah, that's like my short introduction.
Okay, great. What inspired you to get into this line of research, especially into TB?
Right from the start, when I was in school, I was inclined towards research. That was also a reason why I chose biology because I found it very fascinating about things that were unknown regarding the DNA in our bodies and how diseases were linked and how all the microorganisms cause the infections, but also the good ones that help us survive. So I was a bit inclined towards that, and that is how I ended up choosing biology. And then later, when I was in my high school, like in 11th and 12th, at that time too, while learning more deep into biology, I was more inclined towards working in a research field as compared to doing MBBS degree. That is why I chose this path of doing a bachelor's and then master's and then transitioning into PhD. So it was very clear in my mind that I would do research in some biology field. Later, when I joined my bachelor's, I did it from Sardar Patel University, that is in Anand, in Gujarat. In my college, I was very fortunate to have teachers which inspired me more to work in the research, and they also taught us how to do critical thinking and to think about big questions in science, and especially microbiology, because that was my specialization that I was doing during my bachelor's. Once I did some summer internships which involved working in different laboratories to understand how actually research is done, to just get a flair of it. When I was convinced that okay, I think I really like doing it, I further pursued my master's again in microbiology from Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. And its biotech and microbiology department has an old history and is very famous to, with its extensive coursework, the research, I can say the research environment that they create there. Yeah, during my master's as well, it was a very intensive 2 years of my master's degree. But there again, I was fortunate to be selected for an internship to go to the USA, work on some problems. And one of the problem was labeling bacteria and understand how diseases happen and how bacteria escape from diseases. And it was also during my master's project that I got inclined towards understanding tuberculosis and why it is such a huge problem even today in our country. So that was all till my master's. My interests were aligned in research, and then I got interested in TB research. For the PhD, I thought about exploring different labs which work in this area, but still at that time, I was also open to different techniques that people use to understand bacterial infections. I ended up choosing the PhD position in IIT Bombay, where I work with Professor Sarika Mehra, and we try to understand different resistance mechanisms that bacteria, especially TB bacteria, that is the Mycobacterium tuberculosis, employ to become resistant to the certain drugs that we give them to kill them. That is how I ended up here.
During your course of microbiology study,
Yeah.
both the biology as well as the microbiology in masters, you might have come across various microbiological things like bacteria, fungus, algae, and so on. What
Right.
specifically inspired you to take TB? Because there are so many other diseases also, and there are so many other microorganisms also. So how did you get interested in TB specifically?
One thing that interested me about TB is that, first of all, it's a very smart bacteria. Like, it's been there around us since centuries now. We don't exactly know still that what it does to escape all the different antibiotics and the combinations of antibiotics that we use to kill it. Like, we have the TB, like when we are young, we take the BCG vaccine, which helps us overcome the disease when we are younger. Still, over the years, the cases for TB, especially in a country like ours, has been increasing. And recently, even COVID cases of TB occurring with COVID. So that was like a thing which I found it like interesting in that way, that what does it do? What does it do so differently that, it's not happening in other bacteria, but only this, even though we have a cure for it, it again, evolves with humans in such a way that we are not able to overcome the disease, even by using vaccines, even by using different treatment of antibiotics. That is why I was inspired. Also, other thing about TB is that it is difficult to work with because it is a very slow growing bacteria. So it is difficult to even culture it in the lab because you cannot grow it normally. A normal E. coli, for example, which lives in our gut, is very easy to culture. It doubles itself in every 20 minutes. But when you talk about the TB bacteria, it is a very slow growing bacteria. So it takes around 24 hours to double. So also, it's not easy to isolate it on a Petri plate and grow it. So that's again a challenge. And there have been various other models which have been developed to study TB because of its slow growth rate. And so that is why I was inclined to, explore this.
Great, wonderful. So during the course of research, you say that TB bacteria are very difficult to handle because they evolve
Yeah.
along with the humans, and they provide heavy resistance
Yes.
to the medicines. So during the
Yes.
course of research, have you found out anything that is making this TB bacteria more sustainable and more resistance to the medicines? What is the reason for that? Or have you found out the methodology of how this TB bacteria is handling the medicines?
One of the prominent things that we've noticed is bacteria like TB. They have these membrane proteins. Okay, these are like pumps inside the bacteria. What they do is they are able to pump out the drug that we feed the bacteria out of the cell. Okay, so whatever high dosage of drugs that you give to the bacteria, these pump proteins just pump it out of the cell, and that is how the concentration of drug inside these bacterial cells remains very less, and that's how the killing of the bacteria inhibited. We know that these pump proteins existed. They naturally exist in all the different types of bacteria. So they are called efflux pump proteins, and focus of my work was particularly on these efflux pump proteins and how they help survive the different antibiotics that are being used. The thing with efflux pump is that it can pump out any type of drugs, like it can pump out different types of drugs. That is a very, plus point for bacteria, because when you give even combination of drugs or different concentrations of drug, these transporter pump proteins that the bacteria has easily pumps them out of the cell, and that's how they become resistant over the course of time. When I talk about, evolution that these bacteria go through as they are supposedly in an infected patient, or as they are around us. So what happens is that when a particular drug dosage is given to the patient, that concentration is not enough to kill the cells supposedly of TB. But these pump proteins, they also change and they evolve in such a way that either they are expressed through a long period of time, or the regulation of these proteins is changed in such a way that, they are expressed more in the TB cells. So because of higher expression of these efflux pump proteins in the TB bacteria, they are able to overcome the antibiotic dosage that we give us, and hence they become resistant. Thing is that now these efflux pumps that I'm talking about, they are also of various types and kinds inside a particular cell. So the question that I worked on, or what we asked, was that among these different pumps that are present, which is the critical one, which the bacteria would actually use inside a patient. So we've also seen in clinical data as well that many of these efflux pump proteins are mutated. They change in the course of evolution and become such that they are more expressing. And some particular types of efflux proteins are recurring in many patients as well. So the focus is to understand and mine out that from all these pumps, what are the major pumps that would contribute to antimicrobial resistance for tuberculosis.
Okay, wonderful. That's a great, fascinating explanation of
I hope I was able to explain it in some simpler terms, but yeah.
No. You are right on, and I'm inspired to ask you more deep questions on this. Now I have one question. So these flex
Right.
pumps.
Yeah, as I mentioned, they are present naturally in all bacteria, right? So the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria, like the ones which cause the disease as well as the non-disease causing as well. The efflux action, because they have this pumping action, no, that they have to perform, they require energy to actually remove the drug. And that energy can be at a cost for the bacterial cells. What the bacterial cells do is that when they are living normally, happily, and there is no drug around, they will not express these pumps. Okay, so these pumps will remain dormant. But as soon as the drugs come around, that is when the bacteria, will start using these pumps and will start increasing the expression of the pumps. So even in other bacteria, these pumps are present. There are different types, and they can function for various other things as well. Supposedly, they can function to remove some other toxic substances which are present in a bacterial cell. Because these pumps are membrane proteins, I mean, they're embedded in the cell membrane of the bacteria, it is very difficult to understand its mechanism, because membrane proteins are difficult to crystallize and actually understand how exactly this pumping mechanism is working, or what are the amino acids in this protein, critical for carrying out its function. So that is a major, I can say, a roadblock here, because it's difficult to work with and characterize membrane proteins. People know that they are there in all the different cells, but we can only pick a few to understand deeply, because since the ones that you pick it requires a lot of time and effort to actually understand, crystallize them, and look at their structure and understand, if, let's suppose, you want to suppose a drug which is going and binding to the efflux pump and not letting the efflux pump function. So for that, you should know what is the actual, chemical nature of the pump, and you should know the actual structure. And so to move in that direction, a lot of effort is required. So because these membrane proteins are difficult to work with, people choose the efflux pump very critically, like the ones which are really making a difference in the bacterial cell physiology are the ones which are picked to further work on and crystallize them.
Wow, that's so interesting. I was just thinking that when you mentioned about this binding with the pump, I was thinking that why can't we just cheat the pump? Like,
Exactly.
somehow make it a friendly thing rather than being drug. So how can a drug get into in a friendly manner rather than, being some kind of
Mhm.
enemy or something like that? So if that was possible, then probably it would be
Then,
easier to intrude into the and make the pump not work, and then it could
right.
solve the issue.
Yeah. I
Go
would
ahead.
just like to add on that the new research is moving towards this of inhibiting the pumps using different inhibitor molecules which are there chemically around. But the thing with these inhibitor molecules is they are a bit toxic to humans. So, and why that happens is also that even human cells have pumps. Okay.
Mm.
So when you use a very broad kind of inhibitor, it can also go and block the pumps which are there in human cells and essential for human cells. We need an inhibitor which is such which only binds to the bacterial pumps and not to the human pumps. And there are now, like recently, there has been major breakthrough in this field as well, where people like there are some in clinical trials. We are yet to reach there where we can just find a molecule that just can be used directly along with the antibiotics. So you can give the antibiotics, and you along with antibiotics, you also add the efflux inhibitor. So antibiotics just go inside the bacteria, and they don't come out because you have the inhibitor as well. So that is the line of thinking currently in this field of research where it's going.
Wonderful. So I have one more thought on that. Why don't we use AI, artificial intelligence, to study the structure? You mentioned that it is really difficult to study the
Right.
structure of these membranes. So
Yes.
probably you can use AI for that. I recently read an article talked about using AI and then reducing the number of weeks or number of months into just a few days. So probably you might want to look at whether it's possible
Yeah.
for your use case.
Correct. Yes, yes. So you're absolutely right. Like with AI currently, like think in 2020, 2021, Google released this absolutely, wonderful AI tool, which is AlphaFold, which is able to predict the structure of proteins just by knowing the sequence. So you do not need to actually crystallize the proteins to know that. So such models are there available, and some things we can definitely predict from them. So yeah, we can narrow it down. Hundreds of possibilities, you can narrow it down to some 10, but then again, you'll have to test them out in the lab to actually make a conclusion from them as well.
Right. So 100 to 10 is a big improvement already.
Right.
And
Yeah. Yes.
let's hope that the work actually, proceeds faster with new technologies available. And I wish you all the best on that. So we talked a lot about your work. Let's talk a bit about the campus that you work in and the kind of environment you have and the background so that, people know a bit about the
Yeah.
IIT Bombay campus.
Right. So IIT Bombay campus is like in the center of Bombay. It's in the Powai area, and we are very much surrounded by nature. So it doesn't feel like actual Bombay inside the campus. Once you enter the main campus, you automatically feel 2 to 3 degrees cooler inside because of the green cover which is around. So that I feel is great. Since living in Bombay. And the other thing is that, yeah, as I mentioned, we have a lake. We also, on the other side, we also have a hill. So that way there is nature around. I mean, it's a good atmosphere. You can go for a walk. It's always great to do that. But along with that, because all the students which are there in IIT Bombay, I would say like the major BTech students, which make the population of IIT, they make the environment really, I mean, they set the environment for the campus, I feel, because there's always something or the else going on, like from sports to extracurricular activities to different types of fests. So there is anything, like everything which of like whatever you are interested in, you can find it. If your passion is health and fitness, you can find amazing gym facilities which are there for campus, and even in hostels, it's available for everyone, the free of cost. And then there's also a hospital inside the campus as well. So we, especially PhD scholars who live here for a long duration, can take use of these facilities. And along with that, what I really like is the extracurriculars which are there. So I personally like dancing, and when I joined the campus, there were various opportunities that I had to join the dance club in the campus and take part in various performances, various type of fests that happen here. So that helps in, maintaining a balance of work along with, things that you like to do. And along with that, there are also many various workshops that keep happening. So in summers, you have various music workshops where you can learn some instrument if you want. There are some salsa classes going on. There are some painting classes which are going on. So in that way, I feel that the campus provides a lot of opportunity to spend your time in things other than just research. And you'll always find company as well, because a lot of students are already there, which, are in some or the other club around. So, and mostly, like, I see the bachelor's, BTech, and the MTech students are more into the activities, and PhD students, I feel overall, are less into doing all these activities. But definitely, when you see like people around you are doing something or the else, you are automatically motivated to also, do something. And I also learned swimming here in the campus as well. So I found it like overall it was rewarding in that way.
Wow, it sounds like a wholesome campus. You don't need to go out anywhere. It's a place to live in
Right.
itself. So great. Wonderful.
Yeah.
We will talk a bit about societal issues that you care about. Of course, you are working in a very, very, very important area of life-threatening disease and you are contributing to that. But apart from that, do you have any other societal issues in your mind that you want to work on if you are given a chance?
I feel that one thing that I would like to invest my time more is about creating awareness about diseases in general, or about, things that happen in biology, but people in our country would not understand it so deeply that they would, just not understand the seriousness of it. For example, only when COVID happened, everyone got aware of how we should, distance ourselves, like more of a public health thing. And it's not like the fault, but we as, PhD researchers who know a lot about the biology of diseases or infections, or how in general any type, you can say viral or bacterial or anything that spreads, how prevention methods, can be taken, and how to, make it understand to the general public, not like in a way that, they get frightened by it, but in a way in which they really understand it, and then they themselves adapt to conditions where they protect themselves. They can protect themselves or take precautionary measures to protect themselves from, getting caught into diseases that are around us. So yeah, that is the thing that I would like.
So, how are you going to go ahead about it? I mean, have you thought about how to do that and what are your plans on that?
Currently, I have not done something very actively. I feel that I would try to take some internship opportunities where, suppose in India Bioscience or such, which are platforms. And there is also this Superheroes Against Superbugs, which is also, you can say, a part of a campaign started by CCMB in Hyderabad, where they try to make people aware about how antibiotic use is important. We should not take antibiotics all the time. For now, I just try to, communicate it to the friends and family that are around me. In future, maybe I would like to invest more time towards it and join somewhere where maybe not full time, but yeah, invest some time into people or places which are some NGOs which are already doing their bit in spreading these awareness.
Yeah, mass communication is pretty important. I have also thought a lot about how to communicate these ideas to general public, especially in a populated country like ours. Pretty difficult to get the word around. In my podcast before, I have spoken to a couple of mass communication students and professionals. So if
Right.
you ever need help in any of this area,
Yeah.
please feel free to get in touch with me, and I might be able to put in touch with those people and see how it could work out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that. I will reach out to you.
Great. So we are coming towards the end of the podcast. Do you have any questions for me?
So I would just really like to thank you for giving this opportunity to me so that I can talk about my work and in general what I do.
Thank you for spending time in the podcast. I wish you all the best in your work and whatever you aspire to do in life. Please take care and Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye bye.
That was a great podcast with Shiksha Sharma. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.